Thank you for coming back to Community Series, Travis Amsterdam Part 3. Hope you enjoy our final segment.
So I could definitely look at certain things that I got at P Square that help. So Leslie's right. I was teaching for a brief stint. Right now I'm focusing back on my education to get in my master's, but um, a couple of things that come to mind that connects and where my P Square service was an asset was there were two, let me see, three school clubs that I helped organize in my village that had different populations, different students that either volunteered or the school principal wanted them to participate in it that would consistently come. So it was further experience working with children, trying to keep them interested in the subject and trying to, convey information that hopefully would benefit their lives. So that's something directly there, just working with youth. Um, and when you are a teacher, for example, you never know in any community the personalities of the students, personality of the parents. So it's not something to where you can specifically choose like, all right, I want to work with this type of person, this population, especially in a public school system, anybody, and all you have different cultures, different types of people. So obviously when you have an experience like the Peace Corps, you're kind of already familiar with just working with different people from different walks of life, different cultures, and especially staying calm under intense situations. I mean, I don't think it would surprise anybody who's hearing this to know that teaching is a stressful job. There's a reason besides continuing my education that I got out of it. I don't see how. It's funny when I came back right after Peace Corps. I started off as a middle school teacher. Obviously people are asking, where you come from, what's your background. I mentioned, right before this, I served for 2 years in West Africa in the Peace Corps. I would sometimes say, oh, my village didn't have electricity, running water. They would, as you may imagine, their faces would be shocked, like, whoa, like, amazing. How'd you, I can't even imagine how you would do that. And this would be the same teacher that's been teaching for almost as long as I've been alive. I'm like, no, 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 no. I would go there before trying to teach for 20 something years. So,
Yeah, of course.
teaching is another beast of a stressful factor. I would argue even more stressful. But the fact is, Peace Corps, there's a lot of things that are unexpected that would happen. It's an unfamiliar culture, and you kind of have to be okay with giving up control. Like there's certain things that you won't be able to. It's different people that have different values. They have different work ethic. They just you just kind of have to be malleable in how you interact and work with people. And when situations that arise, hopefully they don't, that are in a very stressful, like almost panicky situation, you have to be able to say, okay, how do I, if it's a project, for example, you're working with, how do I make the best out of this? How do I not like freak out and just like break down because things like you're in a different culture, so many things that you're unfamiliar with. So it's just a good experience, I think, for any job, and especially something that can be stressful as teaching. When it comes to the Black community specifically, it's something that, so kind of going back to something you mentioned earlier, there are a lot of issues here in our homeland, in what we consider home, United States. Not surprising to anybody, especially in our current political social climate. Black people are usually on the losing it or the harder end of the stick when it comes to the issues that we suffer here. And so that, I think that's part of the reason why an opportunity like Peace Corps is not, that our Black community isn't very familiar with it, or two, it's not something that we think about seriously, because I mean, and this makes a lot of sense. You focus on your own issues, you focus on making it, you focus on whether that's you're a first generation college student, or whether you're trying to work so hard so you can provide for your family, or just make it in a way that you hadn't seen in your community. Um, and so yeah, I mean, that's respectable. You have to develop yourself, you have to focus on yourself. However, while trying to develop yourself, as much as you can, it's trying to also develop a sense of, yes, I may be struggling, but it's not only about me. And again, to reiterate, Peace Corps service isn't a lifelong commitment. You form lifelong connections from it. I still communicate every now and then via WhatsApp, for example, with people, families, and friends from back in my country in Togo. But can you also say, I mean, it's the government is paying for it. I mean, it's not like you even have to go out of pocket. It's just, can you afford to, give a little of your life, a little of your time to help these communities? Because as much as you think you're suffering, as much as you think you're going through a struggle, when you serve in these communities, you realize that I actually have it a lot better than I thought compared to most of the world, because I live in the United States, or because I have certain social economic opportunities based on where I grew up. So it's really about trying to, and this is not an easy thing to do, because I said when you're struggling, it's harder to think about how you're going to help others. And a lot of our community does, a lot of our people do. So it's just really trying to reinforce that it's going to take time, but also it's going to take the exposure as well. Just kind of, a lot of people don't know, because we're both RPCVs, we have a lot of friends that are similar minded when it comes to either travel or giving back internationally. But we're probably a minority in that sense. I know we are. And so a lot of people that look like us don't know what the Peace Corps is. So it can be something as simple as just kind of giving your elevator speech, like what we did at the beginning of this video. Like, Peace Corps is this, we go to these countries, we serve in these sectors, just to like plant that seed. And then also telling them about, like you mentioned in your question, other organizations. I have a couple of friends that served in the AmeriCorps first and then went to Peace Corps. So you don't have to just jump in the deep end, so to speak, right away. But keep it in mind. And if it's another organization that you admire what the Peace Corps mission is, but you don't know, oh man, 2 years, that's a long time. Work your way up to it. How else can you serve in looking for other organizations that have similar values, maybe on the home front now, and then say, okay, well, I did a year in AmeriCorps. I did serve in a really harsh community. It took me out of my comfort zone. Do I have the courage to take this next step? So exposure, and just trying to think about others as well. Even if you're struggling or you're going through hardships, how can you give yourself? How can you be a better servant? That's what I say.
And I appreciate it, because I do agree with everything you said, and I definitely planting the seed, because there's one benefit that we don't always have, is that family members who've done the Peace Corps, as other communities do, so planting the seed and reaching people younger, just letting them know there's opportunity. There's plenty of opportunities out there, and Peace Corps is one of them. Definitely something that it's beneficial if you plan ahead. And you don't always have to plan ahead, because I heard about Peace Corps when I was growing up, because back then they used to have these commercials. I think there were public service announcements, but as time grew, the media got a little greedier, and so they charged for they didn't give any more free ads, so they didn't have that many commercials. But I saw commercials for Peace Corps, and I at least it was in my head.
Right.
I never thought, I was going to do Peace Corps or anything like that. I never thought I was going to do the military either. But you never know what is in store for you.
Mm-hmm. I just found out, I don't remember hearing about the Peace Corps before my senior year, actually. So that's to tell you how kind of different our experiences were, because at the end of going into my senior year, I thought what most people did, like, I'm either going to continue straight to grad school, take the exam for that, or try to find work. And then we had one of the programs I was involved in before my senior year in DC, that this return voluntary came and he told us about it, and I was like, well, one, it's an international experience. Two, an experience to learn about another culture. And three, it gives me a little more time in between my undergraduate studies to kind of gain real world experience and kind of figure out what my next move is as well. So it wasn't a long planned out decision, but I want to say it works out for the better.
No, totally, I agree. I had the touch being in the military and not with the Navy, and I wanted some more of that, So for me, I was working in FEMA at the time, and then I was like, okay, it's time for me to do something else. Especially I was living in California, all those earthquakes and fires and mudslides. Like, it's time to really get out. But honestly, it was some time for me to do something else. So when someone mentioned, actually, one person mentioned Peace Corps and FEMA, and then when I said, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing it," like I think 4 other people just popped up, and I mind you, I was working with these people for some time now,
right.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, we are Return Peace Corps volunteers." I'm like, so that's one thing you know, Peace Corps volunteers, Return Peace Corps volunteers, be in the woodworks,
right?
And you just say some catchword, and like, "Oh yeah, I'm one."
It's not something that I guess comes up in what you consider general conversation.
No,
I mean,
they're out there, and
right.
Sometimes you might be surrounded by them.
Right.
That's a good thing because you got this network of Return Peace Corps volunteers. But that's really it's solidified. I knew, once my mind is made up, I knew I was going to do it, hook or crook. But it's solidified. My, oh yeah, definitely. Now talking about these people experiences. Some of their, experience were like, things that you don't tell as a recruiter. Oh my gosh, bugs. Oh my god, kind of things. But as a Return Peace Corps volunteer, you laugh about it, and stuff like that. So, but anyhow, I definitely want to thank you for taking your time to talk with me, chat with me, and we have a few other people we're going to be interviewing too, and so I really do appreciate it. But do you have anything last remaining words that you'd like to share with our audience?
I guess only that I hope that this segment that you're trying to, by the way, a great initiative, and I appreciate the fact that you thought of me to be a part of it. I hope that it really kind of teaches people that see it something that they didn't know before. It kind of makes them thinking about, or either introduces them to Peace Corps, or makes them thinking about it in a way that they hadn't seen before. So it's not like you'll be, just, you served 30 years ago. I would be more surprised how many cohorts only have one Black volunteer.
Yeah.
So I just hope that people learn from the experience. I hope that they see that, all right, it's something that we do. I hope that they just have a different perspective from it. And even if it's just 1 or 2 people, that's it's definitely worthwhile.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So this is really, for me, this endeavor and doing this taping is just something I always want to do and have control over it, and whatnot. So the show Geeking Out is about things I really geek out about, and the things that geeking out meaning that for me is things I just get overly excited about, and I get excited about my travel. I get overly excited about my collection, man cave, and I definitely get overly excited about Peace Corps. Sometimes to the point that I'm just, it surrounds me. I'm just glad that I'm able to do it, and I'm glad you were able to participate. So thanks.
Great, no problem.
All right now.